This podcast may contain adult themes.
This podcast is for entertainment purposes only.
The views and opinions in this podcast are expressly our own.
When I get to the workplace, I like to fuck shit up.
Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way.
Hey, are you tired of toxic workplaces and the negativity that comes with them?
We hear you, and we're here to shake things up. Welcome to Let's Break Up Toxic Workplace Stories, the podcast that's all about breaking up with workplace toxicity.
I'm Nicola, and I'm here with my co-host Gina. Together, we're going to explore real-life experiences of workplace toxicity and offer a sense of encouragement and unity.
That's right. We're tackling the tough topic of negativity in the workplace and turning it into a movement for positivity.
We'll be interviewing guests to share their experiences and offer practical solutions for dealing with workplace toxicity. Our aim is to promote solidarity and a sense of community amongst our listeners.
Let's Break Up is quickly becoming the go-to source for anyone looking to share and then ditch the drama and create a happier, healthier work environment.
So join us each week as we explore the various forms of toxicity in the workplace. Get ready to join the revolution against red flags and toxic workplaces.
Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell all your friends.
In this week's episode, so today we've got a two-part series because it was just so juicy and so exciting. We had to break it up into two whole parts.
Unbelievably crazy, a lot of plot twists, lots of characters. So we're gonna also treat everyone to special graphics on Instagram. So you might want to check those out before you listen to this episode, part one and part two, to keep all of the characters kind of, together in your mind as you're listening, because there's a lot of players.
Today's episode contains a couple of trigger warnings around sexual harassment and completed suicide.
We will warn you when those topics are coming up so that you could either fast forward or jump ship. No hard feelings. No, I think we have to have a trigger warning just for our entire podcast, because it's like some people really fucking have PTSD from the places they've been. I mean,
PTSD. I forgot to do something this morning. I was supposed to submit a report yesterday, and it completely slipped my mind because I inherited this inbox of emails that have they had 200 plus emails and that had never been replied to, and I was like, oh shit. So I'm so focused on trying to get some of these through, and I'm churning through them that I forget about the report, which is uncharacteristic of me because I remember shit hot smart, right?
Right.
So my boss emails me and she's like, hey, have you delivered that report? And I was like, oh my God, I legitimately didn't even think about it. So had to rally that shit around. And I was like, so in that moment, I felt so stressed out that she was going to yell at me or freak out at me. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I feel terrible that I've forgotten this. How would I forget this? I never forget anything. And I felt so shitty. And I'm telling you, it's that post-traumatic stress. It is the stress.
Because it's like the feeling is similar. It's like, I got to get this done really quick. Oh my God, I got to get this done really quick. And it just opens up all the feelings you had when you were at where we met.
Yeah. But I genuinely, I felt terrible. I was like, oh my God, I cannot, what kind of god awful human being
what did your boss say? Was she just like, don't worry, just get it done when you
get
it
happens. Done? I was like, it doesn't happen to me.
You're like, hello, have we met? My name is Nicola. And no,
it doesn't happen. Oh my God. So I had a little mini meltdown at myself.
Right. Well,
highlights that there is genuinely post-traumatic stress that comes with.
I was doubting myself and my ability. I was like, maybe I really am not good at what I do. I've gotten to the place in my career where I do believe I am good at what I do. But after leaving there for 3 days, I was in bed, just sleeping, because I was I guess it was shock and a little depression. But not full scale because I wasn't there long enough to have it like you had it.
Yeah.
But it really did leave me doubting, do I have to change everything I'm doing? Meanwhile, like I have clients who tell me like literally I'm amazing and I can get anything done for them and they're so happy with me. So it's like, what is it? It's like the Madonna whore thing. Am I awful, toxic, horrible? No. Am I assertive? You know, yes. But, and that doesn't always mean people are going to understand that it's just assertiveness.
I think, you know, like I reflect back on after I had been let go, and I think one of the big things for me was the fact that I literally felt like I meant nothing to anyone. I was like, how could you literally tell me that I am the go-to person for everything, and then in
They
the
were
next
lying.
breath delete me from everything? Like, how little did I actually mean? And that is what I struggled with.
Yeah. And I get that. And like, I remember one of our first conversations when I reached out to you, you were like, I wonder how well they're going to do with their star players. And I was like, clear without their star players, meaning you and me, because we did have the most experience. And I just said, clearly we weren't stars to them.
No, we weren't. It's just, I still can't, like, I still struggle to get my
I'm
head
sure
around
that
this.
they were like, knowing who these people are now, I'm positive they were telling that same exact line to other people,
Multiple people
in the company for different reasons.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I just didn't, because I was in the cult, I just didn't see it.
Yeah, you were just sucked in for too long where you couldn't, you actually believed everything they said. I mean, the one and only time that the CEO went around me, I was surprised at my reaction because I was angry, but I was also really sad. It made me sad because it made me feel like it didn't give me any, like, it didn't make me feel like she trusted me. And I said that to the COO. I was like, listen, if she wants to do my job, she should do it. Why did you hire me? You know, and the fact that I had to hear it through someone else, it's like she wasn't even big enough to say, oh, by the way, I just want to let you know, I had this conversation. Like, she sent her little like ass kisser minion to come to me to break the dirty news.
It's just so, I don't know. I know, like, I feel like we've somehow touched on this in every episode at this point, you know, which is fine. Like, I have no problems with that. But at the same time, I'm like, how impactful has this been that it continues to draw us in? You know what I mean? Like, it just keeps sucking us in because we're just like
we keep talking about it. And it's
because
like,
it's so traumatic. Like, realistically, it was so traumatic for the both of us that it is emotionally fucking draining.
Hello.
Hello. Are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. Thank you.
Okay,
so where are you based? Where are you based?
I used to be in America, and then about 7 years ago moved to New Zealand.
Okay, so
we'll have to have a coffee or something.
This cat over here is based in Wellington, Florida.
Oh, me.
Oh.
But I'm from New York. Didn't some of your toxic stuff come from New York?
Chicago, actually.
Okay, Chicago. I don't know why I thought New York.
Well, because we did usability testing in New York. So some of the things in there are New York from
maybe you mentioned it, yeah. But I'm originally from Manhattan, and when I was 6 months pregnant, I moved here. What you sent us, amazing, and the pictures you included, like my eyes are already big, but they were like bugging out. I was like, no, this is not.
We decided to stop reading it.
Yeah, because we were like, we don't want to know what's gonna come up.
We don't want to know. We want to be surprised.
Yes, but the fact that there was like photographic like reference images, just I was like, this is fucking amazing. Okay, so I feel like every single job you've had, so up until the job you have now, maybe, I don't know, I'm assuming, has been fucking insanely toxic?
So I should say, like, I've had good jobs in between, but
Okay, good.
these jobs that I've talked about, they started off as like the best place I've ever worked in my life, and then ended up being the worst place ever. So yeah,
Can you
so
dive, get right into it? We want to hear the nitty gritty.
Straight in.
Yeah, because I feel like you have so fucking much going on. No, but I'm so here for it. Like, I can't wait to hear this.
I'm buckled up. I've got a seatbelt on. I'm ready to go.
We've already recorded our trigger warnings based on some of the things that you've said.
We already trigger warned it. We were like, you know what? We'll just insert those as needed.
Yeah, because I was like, I feel like, yeah. Okay.
So just some background on me.
Yeah.
So
tell us who you are.
I'm a user experience graphic design person. I used to do graphic design, and then I moved over into like a managerial role. And so a lot of these things that we'll talk about is me kind of moving up the chain from the bottom pretty much. And I have a patent in America for one of my designs, and I also have various awards for some of the stuff I did for some of the bigger companies. And yeah, I have over 15 years experience, and I've done work for like huge Fortune 500 companies all the way down to like small companies that have like 30 people or even 10 people or yeah. So I have experience in corporate America as well as kind of small, loose startup.
Tell us about your first toxic workplace experience. Like, how was it at first?
How did it start? Were you recruited? What happened?
Yeah, so I had a job, my first job out of college, and it was at an industrial signaling company, and I was literally like doing ads for like fire alarms and screws, and it was really, really boring. And I sadly got laid off from there. They were downsizing, and they decided to keep people that were there like before I was born, and they decided to let go the people that had just started there. So yeah, it was like a blessing in disguise, because they paid for me to get a second degree, and I would have had to pay it back or stay for 5 years after graduation. But since they laid me off, I was totally clean from that. So that was actually a blessing in disguise.
That's nice.
So I love movies and I love video games. And my degree in school was media arts and animation. I wanted to do like special effects in movies and stuff. This role came up for this movie and games company, and I thought, oh, this is amazing, you know. And I didn't think I was qualified for the job because there were a lot of senior aspect things, and I had just, you know, had my first ever job. But my dad always used to tell me, just apply, let them tell you no, right? Just tell them what you're willing to contribute, and they'll, yeah. So I ended up getting the job. So I was so excited. I loved my work. I love my coworkers, and I'm still friends with a lot of them today. And it continued like that for like 3 years. Like there were like Christmas, we finished a big push and we got Xboxes for Christmas, and the end of the year party was in Vegas, and a lot of the people were around my age, and there was a lot of opportunity to work on new types of mediums and new platforms. So in that respect, it was really interesting work for me too, like especially coming from doing ads for like fire alarms.
Yeah, from like boring smoke alarm ads.
Yeah. So then after 3 years, I'm just gonna call him Bilbo Bagins because he looked.
Did he resemble Bilbo?
Yes.
Baggins?
Yeah.
No.
I should have put a picture.
I need hairy feet in my life.
Yeah.
Please, we're gonna have, this is great for our marketing information. Like, what happens when your boss is Bilbo Baggins? So Bilbo Baggins becomes your new manager.
Yeah, he was hired way up there as a senior VP.
Okay.
And he became kind of the face of the company. Whenever the company had to do interviews, he would do them. Yeah, and he was featured on like TV shows, morning TV shows, stuff like that. He later became the chief revenue officer. And he was in talks to become like the what's step lower than CEO? I forget. anyway, he was in talks to be that.
Oh,
Operating.
COO?
COO?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's actually not a step down, but
Oh, okay.
it's same level, but just in charge of different things like operations and
Oh,
all that kind of stuff. But
oh,
yeah.
I see.
Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so then I noticed little things where he started being inappropriate here and there. Like he would compliment how I looked, which, you know, I was like, okay, that's not too bad. But then like he would always say like ladies first and let me through the door, but then he'd put his hand like on
Ooh,
the
I hate that.
Do
Yeah,
not
I
touch me.
hate
I will
that.
punch you in the tit. Do not.
The last time I was in Atlantic City, this was right before I got pregnant. I was 39. So I was the oldest one at this club probably. And obviously I don't look my age because I'm 43. I don't look 43,
Wow.
but so I'm at this club. I'm dressed like a who, you know, like big
Yeah.
stilettos, like all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. Slinky little tiny dress. And literally every 25-year-old kid in there who thought I was somewhat attractive put their hand on the small of my back. And I would have to be like, stop touching me.
Ugh.
I'd be
No,
like, I
do
did not let you touch. Like,
It's too
was-
intimate. The
It's-
small of your back is too intimate.
yeah. Okay. So he's ushering you through, ladies first. Let me put
Mhm.
my hand on the small of your back.
Yeah.
Grabby
But-
hands.
But he would put his hand on my back to where his fingers were like,
Were, like, on
the
your
top
butt?
of my butt. Yeah.
I
yeah.
knew it.
Yeah.
Oh, that gives me like the
The heebie-jeebies. Okay.
So then
So he's
other things.
slowly
Yeah.
escalating, it seems
Yeah.
like.
Mhm,
Okay.
yeah.
What
And
happens
then
next?
he would do things like straight out of Anchorman, where it was like I'd pass by his office and it was like glass windows, and he'd be like working out and he'd be like, ugh, and like make eye contact and stuff.
Was he in good shape though, or was it like fake workouts?
I wouldn't say he was buff, but he wasn't like fat either. Like he was just kind of, you know,
Like
in
skinny
between.
fat?
It was kind of like older too, so I guess for his age. You know.
This is amazing.
Yeah, and
Would
so
he like wipe his brow or like
no, I
drink
never
water?
saw sweat. I just
That's what I was gonna say. Or like drink water and like accidentally like let it get on his white t-shirt. So that's
Okay,
gross.
yeah. Yeah. And then so then I noticed that women were mysteriously getting like huge promotions. Like I'm talking about intern to like manager of a department in like 2 months kind of thing. And so it was like really weird, but I was like, whatever, like that's different department. I have nothing to do with
Also,
that.
like
whatever.
maybe they had qualifications you didn't know about. I
Yeah.
can see why
Yeah.
you would just be like, whatever. Yeah.
But when it started being more and more like every week was an announcement of another like intern or person who just got hired who got like a promotion to like a big role, it was kind of odd.
Mm-hmm.
Then I remember it was around review time. And so I had the review by my manager, and then and Bilbo wanted to talk to me about my review. And I was like, ooh, like senior VP wants to talk to me about my review. What did I do wrong? Like, you know.
Was your
So-
review with your manager? Okay, so they had good things to say about you. Okay.
Yeah. And so I went in his office, and then he went through my review, and then he said,
Was he
"Hey,
working out?
No, not at this one. Not at this one.
I so wish that he was working out. Like,
Like, oh, I really love your performance.
okay. So what does he say to you about your review that shouldn't have raised any red flags?
So he just said, I looked through your review and it looks like you've contributed a lot to the company. I was the only designer in the company. So I was doing everything like print, web, mobile, POP for grocery stores, TV ads, like everything. And so he's like, you know, we really appreciate your contribution. And I want to ask you, have you ever considered being promoted to like a higher position? This is only my second real job. And I honestly felt like I wasn't qualified yet to like lead anyone. And I really enjoyed being a worker bee at that point. And so I told him, I was like, no, I really want to learn more first. I was like, maybe you can assign me a mentor where I could learn how to be a leader, that kind of thing. And he's like, so you're sure you don't want a promotion? I said, no, not at this stage. And then he was like, huh, that's a shame. A cute girl like you could could get their way up in the company real quick. And I was like, oh, okay.
So the implication there, obviously, is that because you're cute, he might be interested. And because you rejected that potential hiring or promotion, he's not going to get any.
Yeah. And so then he said again, like, are you sure you don't want a promotion? Because we could make that happen. And I said, you know what? No, I'm okay. I'm really okay. So he said, okay, that's fine. And then he's like, you could go back to work. So I like slowly backed out of the office, like this way, because I didn't want him to look at my butt as I walked out, because I felt so weird at that point. So I backed out of the office, and that was kind of the last of that. And then every once in a while, he, would continue doing like inappropriate things. Like he would force me to smile at him, like he would be like, oh, you have to smile at me. And he would like block the hallway, so I couldn't get past him unless I smiled at him. And so I created like this fake smile that I would do just to be able to pass by him. So I just,
that's like more like a grimace.
So he kind of picked up on it. And so then he would do the fake smile back to me. And then we would just go about our day.
Creepy.
Okay. How did this person get into this position of power? Because surely people would have complained. Surely.
Who's going to complain when they are getting promoted so quickly?
Touche. Actually, touche.
And when was like, around what year was this? Like, was it still in the 90s?
The 1940s?
No, this was like
2005.
Yeah, around like after 2004 kind of thing, but not before 2010. So around.
So I think that's relevant though, because I think there was still a lot, not totally overt sexual harassment going on, like in corporate America, that only recently has kind of come out, So I'm not saying that that's right, but I think that it was like the prime time for this shit to be happening to you,
Yeah, like if the Me Too movement was at that time, like this would have been a totally different narrative. Meanwhile, while I'm dealing with Bilbo, this guy, office supply guy, I'll call him, he was the facilities manager. He started flirting with me a lot. He would buy me special presents. He found out what like my favorite candy was, and you'd leave it on my desk with like a beautiful red ribbon, like stuff like that. And he asked me out, and he was really attractive. And I told him, I was like, look, I'm really attracted to you, but the thing is, this is kind of like my dream job, working in film.
You don't want to fuck it up.
Yeah, I don't want to date inside, my coworker. Like, I hope you understand that. And he freaked out. Like, he got so furious. And so then he started sabotaging my ability to work, being the office, manager.
What was he doing?
So he would do things like he would refuse to get me like Post-it notes and pencils and pens and da-da-da. He would refuse to get help me with IT, because he was kind of IT as well. So if I had an issue, he would refuse to help me. He would purposely block my computer from being able to print, which, me being a graphic designer, that was integral. Yeah.
Oh, that's so
that's
petty.
so fucking petty.
So while I'm dealing with all this, and I'm like, dude, like, this is why I don't date in the office. Imagine if we had actually dated. Another level. So this lady in the office, she was higher up in the office, and we're going to call her Evil E. So to backtrack a little bit, my industrial signaling job, they had a deal with Ford and Toyota and a couple other places, since they did so many industrial signaling stuff. So I actually got my car at a huge discount. I bought my car brand new for like the price of like a basic Mazda. And I had a Lexus IS 250.
Well,
And
excuse me.
I'm sorry. Oh, we're too fancy for this podcast now. Fuck me.
well, I mean, the point is I got it as the
Right.
price of
Like
a
you
cheap
would have
car.
normally not have been able to afford that level of a car, right?
Yeah.
For not the discount. Okay. So then what happens? Evil E enters.
So Evil E saw me drive into work in the morning in my car. And she thought it was ridiculous that I could afford a car like that. So she
Why
went
is
to my
her business?
I don't know. So she went to my boss, and he told me this himself. She went to my boss and lobbied for him to give me a reduction in pay.
What?
Wait,
because
what?
she's like, she's like, I don't know how much she makes, but she shouldn't be able to afford a Lexus at like her level. So
What
you
if it
need
was
to,
your
like,
parents' car? Like there were so many other scenarios that I would think of. Like maybe you came from a family of money. Maybe you bought it used. Maybe it was a loaner. Like there's so
Maybe
many
someone
others.
died and you got inheritance.
Yeah, like there's so many more suitable scenarios that fit this situation than let's just like reduce her pay.
Cut you at the knees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happened there? I hope your boss stood up for you.
Yeah. So my boss is like, that's ridiculous. I'm not telling you how much she makes, and I am not reducing her pay.
Good. Okay. Thank God.
So
for
he was
that.
great. He was a great boss. All this stuff was happening at once, right? Bilbo, supply guy, evilly. And so I'm like, you know what? I think this is time to go to HR and just bring all of this stuff to HR and see what they can do to help me, because it's starting to get kind of stressful. Yeah, they did not do a thing. They sent an email to, a supply guy saying like, hey, you need to chill out with that. They sent an email to Evilly like, no, we're not reducing your pay. Stop asking us. And then with Bilbo, they said, he's so high up in the company, we advise if you want to keep your job, you should just drop it. So then I decided.
So what did you do?
I decided to just drop it because I loved my job, and my thought process at the time was, I'm not letting a man who can't control himself ruin my ability to work in the best job I've ever had. Because it was, a couple of people, like these are 3 people who were jerks, right? But the rest of the company were super nice, sweet, amazing people. And the projects I got to work on were like dream jobs.
Okay.
Love that. Okay. I see the weighting system
I
there.
probably would have reacted the same. I probably would have just
Same.
accepted it. So how did you end up leaving this job? Under what circumstances?
So the tea. So what happened was there's a huge thing where Bilbo got caught giving a $50,000 bonus to one of his mistresses, one of the ladies who was mysteriously promoted.
Okay.
Wow.
And
How was that found out? Do you know how it was found out?
well, because there's paperwork in him giving a $50,000 bonus.
You know what? I'll be someone's mistress for a $50,000 bonus. Let's go.
I mean, sign me up. Where's Bilbo live now?
I just want to check about the hairy feet, though. I don't know if I could.
Any hoozles. So this becomes something that is brought to the attention. Does he get sacked?
So he was let go, like overnight, and so was
As
every
she should have
woman.
been.
Every woman who had mysteriously been promoted got sacked as well, got fired
That
as
makes
well.
sense.
Half of the HR department got let go.
Because they were probably privy to it and just turned a blind eye.
Or part of it, who knows? Yeah.
Or part of it, right?
So-
Okay. Fair
Oh
enough.
my
So, yeah.
God.
So overnight, like it was like Friday to Monday, like he's gone. All the women in the department, other than me, are gone because I'm the only one who didn't accept a promotion. So you'd think that would be the end of the story, right?
I kind of assumed it would be, but I feel like now knowing this podcast and where we're at in our lives, I'm going to say a solid no.
No, I bet we have some return players. Let's hear.
There has to
Okay,
be
yeah,
a return,
yeah.
a return
Oh, yeah.
appearance, a cameo.
Oh, yeah.
Cameos, yeah. What cameos do you have for us?
I went back to work on Monday, and that for like the next couple months afterward, I really had to fight for respect in the office because my male coworkers treated me like I was guilty also,
you had
but that
done
I just
nothing.
didn't get caught. Yeah.
Right.
And so I really had to fight for respect. Like they literally call me things like, "Oh, you're a dirty girl, aren't you?" Or like, "Oh, you're a spinner," which I didn't know at the time, but now I know what that means.
Sorry, am I like
One
100
time-
years old? What is a spinner?
It's when you sit on a dick and spin.
Oh, am I like
One
100?
time, so I'm Italian and I'm hairy, and one time I was called a hairy spinner.
Oh,
The guy was like, "Your arms are a little hairy," and that gave me such a complex that I have now gotten laser hair removal on like my entire body.
Yeah.
They're calling you a spinner. I love that.
Yeah.
For no one.
giving me keys to their hotel rooms, like all sorts of things like that just are inappropriate. Like I remember one guy tried to give me a key to his hotel room, and I was like, dude, this is sexual harassment. And it was after work, like at a work function. And he's like, "It's not sexual harassment if it's after work hours."
It's at a work function, dude.
And you're a colleague. It's always work hours when you're with colleagues.
Meanwhile, if you're interested in whatever happened to Bilbo,
of course.
Curious.
he was fired, but then became CEO of another big company about 4 months after. And they told us at my job, like what happened. And they were like, "Oh, he's done his time. So, now he's
4
allowed
months?
to go ahead and live his
okay.
life." Yeah.
4 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
He probably was like shacked up with all the girls who had been giving him favors for those 4 months doing his time because they were all
Literally
living
trying
off
to
of
be
his
alone.
severance.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, the mistress that he gave 50 grand to worked with him at the new company.
Obviously. I wouldn't think obviously, I wouldn't think anything less. All right. So
Yeah.
how did your exit from this horrible place, which
Okay.
didn't start out horrible for you? It was like your dream fucking job.
Okay. So there's more.
Oh, wait. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. So a return player. So Evil E, instead of getting fired, she just got promoted to another section of the company. So she actually was still really upset with me that I got her in trouble with HR back. So this is a couple years after the HR incident.
But anyway,
Yeah, I
so
don't know.
she's still pissed off because you got a discounted car. Like in all of your life, that's the one thing that you have in your craw. Like,
right.
don't you have like a dysfunctional family or like early childhood trauma to have in your craw?
Like why are we
feel like
targeting Reina's fucking car?
Right.
it's so stupid.
And I'm like a nobody in the company. I'm just some random worker bee, and she's like a high up senior. It's like, why do you even care? Another return player. So she actually conscripts supply guy to hack into my computer.
No.
And she sends emails from my Outlook to my other bosses and like stakeholders saying flirty things.
How
like
did
if
you
it's
find
me.
this out? How did you find this out?
I'm guessing that someone was like, "Why did you send me this email?" And you're like, "What fucking email?"
Nobody said a thing. So no.
How did you find out?
So being a I was the only designer, right? And I had stakeholders in every part of the company.
Every department, yeah. Okay.
And so I would often forget, did I send that thing? I'm not sure. So I would look through my sent folder to see if I sent stuff. And so when I went through my sent folder, I saw random messages to them.
Can you summarize what some of these flirty messages said? They were probably so terrible too. They probably weren't even good.
No,
it's like I would take credit if it was good.
It was like, "Oh, I just want to say you looked really good today." Or it was, "You know what? When I was presenting today, I could hardly concentrate on my presentation because you looked so good." Or
okay, we're getting a little
like
saucy. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So nothing.
And you were like, okay, so you find this and you're like,
yeah,
I never sent this.
Yeah. So I'm like freaked out. So I go to my boss, who she sent these messages to my direct boss. And I was like, "Why didn't you say anything?" And then he's like, "Well, because of what happened with Bilbo, I just didn't want to even touch it with a 10-foot pole. I just like ignored it." And I'm like, "Okay." And he's like, "Yeah, some of the other stakeholders and I were talking about like what's going on with Reina." I told my boss, I'm like, "You know what? I'm really going to need you to help me out with this because I've gone to HR before and they haven't done anything. And this is like, if you want me to make these deliverables and make presentations that won't get like awkwardly rescheduled or whatever because of these emails, I suggest that you help me with HR. So he went to HR and it was easy to prove.
All right.
Yeah.
So this is and this woman, how old is this woman? But just for reference.
At the time she was like 40.
And how old
And
were
I was
you?
like 25, 26. HR puts a stop to that because it's so easy to prove because you just go through the sent messages and people saw her at my desk. And so it was easy
so
to
she
prove.
just came wait, she just walked over leisurely to your desk and was like, boop, 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 boop. That is my favorite thing.
How stupid.
I thought that she like did this like via
Like on the cloud or some shit.
Yes, or like via some sort of proxy or hacked in, got your no. So she just like
and hold on, let's look. Is it her birthday that's the password? Doopy doopy doo.
I mean, sometimes your screen doesn't lock immediately. And
Yeah,
like maybe your screen didn't lock for like whatever 15 minutes. I don't know.
Oh my
Who knows?
God.
Or she probably was like scurrying over like the second you left your desk, like a weird little like mouse. And then like
well, because the company was so small and it was just kind of a startup at that point, there were only like 60 employees total in the whole company. And so the facilities guy, the supply guy, I would have to give him my password in order for him to install like stuff.
Oh, so he had it. Got it. Okay.
So basically
Amazing.
HR just told me to regularly change my passwords and told evilly, hey, stop doing that. And then that was the end of that.
But if you had to regularly change your password and supply guy would need it,
I know. That's why it was
that doesn't
like
make any sense.
So again, HR didn't like nothing because
They shit the bed. Yeah. Okay. So then what
So-
happens?
So the company exploded. It grew dramatically. Like we went like from 60 employees to like over 1,000. We went to making like $1 million a day. Like it was like insane. I was still the only graphic designer in the whole company.
The amount of work you probably had was asinine.
It was too much. It was like overwhelming. And
Yeah.
so I asked for help. And so they said, okay, you know what? We're going to hire another designer and we're going to give you that mentor you asked for way back in the Bilbo days.
Okay.
So they hired a design manager, which I thought was pretty great.
Was it great in real life?
No.
I had a feeling. Why did I have that sneaky feeling? So what happened there?
Okay. So we're just going to call him Scabs and let me explain why.
That's the next card in our deck. We got Evil E Supply Guy, Bilbo Baggins, Reina, who should be like a superhero, and then Scabs. Okay, let's hear Scabs' story.
So Scabs was like,
Scabby Patty.
oh, I like that. So he was kind of like a space invader. He's like a close talker. When he would like talk to you about stuff, he would like often like lean over your desk and like grab your mouse and like, do stuff. And so it happened twice where he had like giant zit around his mouth that kind of scabbed over.
Are you sure it wasn't a herpes?
I didn't want to say that because I didn't want like someone that has herpes to be like, oh, they're making fun of herpes people.
Herpes happens.
Herpes, you can get herpes as a child. Like that's usually where
like
the
your
ones around
nonna
your mouth.
kisses you on the mouth, the next minute you've got herpes for the rest of your life.
The ones
Fuck
on
off,
your
nonna.
mouth are not considered sexually transmitted because they're usually just something that you pick up from like a cup or somebody that.
Oh my God, have you ever had a cold sore, Gina?
Never had one.
What about you, Reina?
No.
Oh my God, are we all herpes free?
It seems that way.
Oh.
So I don't think it's like something to have a stigma about.
No, I agree. Is this what the podcast is for now? Is we're breaking stigma on mouth herpes?
Herpes.
Genital herpes can't help you, but mouth herpes
Yeah,
totally.
get bent with your genital herpes. Like, get off the grass. We're not interested.
No, but mouth herpes, we're totally open to them.
Well, I'm not
Anyways.
open mouthing anyone.
No, but no shame if you got them.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
Did he try to kiss you with the herpes mouth?
No, because he was such a close, and he would lean over your desk, like scab flakes would like flake off, and so it's like,
no. Would you find them in your keyboard?
yes, like sprinkled. like scab like sprinkles over like your keyboard.
Yeah.
But he did this to like multiple people. So his nickname was Scabs when he wasn't around, just because he kept leaving scab flakes on people's desks.
Was he like, let me think about it? And like rubbing it all over your head because he's leaning over your desk.
Oh my God.
Okay. So he's a weirdo. What happens?
Yeah. So Scabs started belittling me and my work and criticizing my appearance. He would often like talk about like my, shirt wasn't, work appropriate, or my pants or my shoes or whatever. And the thing is, we had zero, like we didn't have a dress code. And people would often go to work in like flip-flops and, like a tank top or
please, babe. I've seen that shit.
I wouldn't think you would need to wear like a button down and slacks every day.
No.
Right.
Not
not at all. No.
Okay.
And I didn't interact with clients. So, anyway, so
oh my God,
he'd often make presentations, like as my new boss, he would present my work and say that, oh, Reina didn't get to it, but here's what I designed.
Can we just pause here for a second and remind people that if this podcast is something you enjoy, we would love to hear from you.
You can find us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Let's Break Up Toxic Workplace Stories.
Sharing and subscribing really helps us feel validated.
How did you ever call that out?
Yes. So I tried to call it out in the meeting and he's like, no, that's not true. Guys, she's just embarrassed that she didn't get to it. It's okay, Reina. It's okay. And so I complained to my old boss about it. And he was like, well, how can you prove that you did the work? So what I started,
I don't know, because I've got like an entire show on my computer of how I developed and delivered the work.
So what I started doing was I started hiding watermarks in the imagery, like, a little something, or
a little Easter egg.
Yeah, it hid my name somewhere or whatever.
You're
and so in the middle
smart.
of the meeting, so in the middle of the meeting, he would be like, oh, Reina didn't get to this. And I'm like, really? Can you point out the goat in this picture? And then I could like easily go and point it out. And then everybody would just die laughing in the meeting and knew he was lying.
Okay. I love this. I love it.
So then they recommended that I start presenting my work when I did my work, and then he would present his work. And so I would present my work in meetings, and then he would always have something negative to say, always. And it was like he'd just find anything. And so my dad, he was like, why don't you just use the fuzzy thumb technique? And I was like, that's where you purposely put some mistake in the design so that the person who wants to feel important can point out the obvious mistake, and then they feel good about themselves, and then you don't have any feedback. You could just move to the next step. And so a lot of artists incorporate that fuzzy thumb technique to kind of move stuff through pretty quickly. So I started doing that, and he would always choose the fuzzy thumb, which was easy for me because I already had the fixed version at my desk. So I could like send off the finished version like 5 minutes after the meeting.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Smart.
So he started getting really upset about that stuff, and he started like punishing me by making me work long hours, making me work overnight. Like I'd have to work overnight, like multiple nights in a week, to where I had to call off work just to get sleep. And he would like message me at 3 a.m. like, where's that thing? Where's that thing?
This is mental.
Yeah. So it was really, really stressful. And he wasn't even a good designer. So I couldn't even learn anything from him, which is really frustrating, because I'm like, well, at least if I could learn something, if I could get a silver lining out of this. But there was like nothing. He was, he wasn't teaching me how to be a good manager. He wasn't teaching me how to be a good designer. He was leaving scabs all over my desk. There wasn't anything.
I was going to say, let's not forget the scabs in your keyboard. Okay, so then what happens?
So he brings me in for a one-on-one meeting around review time. And he had a whole, like literally a giant notepad full of complaints, and they were all about my appearance.
What?
And yeah,
I genuinely don't know where to like put that folder in my brain.
So
because I'm just like, how is that, like, on what planet do you think that it is appropriate to comment on someone's behavior to a point that you're complaining about it. You're not coming into work with, let's say, a copious amount of BO, or
No.
you're coming in with, like, let's say,
You're not wearing like
t-shirt
a
and flip-flops.
bikini to work.
Yeah, like,
No,
buddy, like, what sort of
So
insecurity?
here's my theory. Here's my theory.
Okay.
All of his other techniques to shut you down, like
Didn't
taking, didn't work. So now he's like, this is all he has left. Is his subjective rather view of what he thinks you dress and look like and how it should be changed. Even though I'm positive you were totally fine within the reason of the office, reasonably dressed. Like we said, you did not come in with like a stripper outfit or a bikini or yeah. So what were some of his points?
You're ready for this?
Inquiring minds must know.
Okay, so among the list, I'll just tell you the highest one things. So I had peekaboo streaks. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's like,
Little
so
colors.
so it's
I love
hidden
that.
colors. So during work hours, it would just look normal, and then outside of work hours, I could just do my hair in a different way, and then you can see it. And so he hated that, and he hated the fact that I have dark hair, and so he said, I really prefer you as like a medium brown. So if you could dye your hair like medium brown, that's what I would prefer. I think it'll make you look more professional. And then he also said that he wanted me to wear a 2-inch slingback heel, and he actually brought the shoes into the
In your
meeting.
size?
Yes.
How
So
did he know your shoe size?
On occasion, I would take off my shoes at my desk so I could like work or whatever, and then put my shoes on. If I was, because remember, I was working crazy hours, so sometimes I just
He
wanted to
must
be
have
comfortable.
seen your shoe size. Okay.
Yeah. And and he brought the shoe, and I have pictures there. That's what the shoes looked like. And told me like how he wanted me to update my clothing as well. And then he gave me a scathing review. And he actually put in the review, if there was a way to rate her 0 stars, I would do that.
Ew.
On what basis?
Because she's not bending to his conformity of dyed hair, slingbacks, and vagina on display.
Okay, right.
Well,
but so how can you demand all of that and also like give you a horrible review? Like, let's say you were not as strong as you are, and you were like, okay, let me go do that. Where's the time period where you could turn that around? It can't all happen in the same day, right?
Yeah, none. Yeah. And he said I was bad at my job, that I didn't know what I was doing, that I was not a good subordinate, that I would often challenge him, which that part was true. Yeah.
It just sounds like he was, again, threatened by you.
Well, and then the ways that I would go against him were just in the ridiculous things he was doing, not in the common sense things.
Right.
And then he said like, oh, she doesn't even know how to use Illustrator. The program isn't even called that. It's called Illustrator. But he doesn't even know.
Is that a version that I don't know about?
I was also like, is that a version we don't know about? Like, is that like
was that like a 1998 version?
Is it like a Corel Draw vibe? Like, where are we?
Oh my god, do you remember Corel Draw?
Oh my god, I started my design career in Corel Draw. Please, what a treat.
Oh god. Okay. Anyway. Okay, so we're all on board. He's a fucking idiot.
Yeah. So then it starts getting like aggressive.
So wait, did you go to HR about this ridiculous review and like how inappropriate it was?
Yeah.
And
Okay,
they
what
did nothing?
They say?
Yeah, what did they say?
First I tried, because HR always told me, try to work it out with the person first before you come out here.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I went to Scabs and I was like, hey, can you please explain this review to me? Like, what's going on here? And so that's when he got really aggressive. He started screaming at me, and we had like a cubicle, like a single cubicle, right? And he blocked my exit so I couldn't leave. And then at one point he got really upset, and I hadn't raised my voice or anything. And he swipes everything off my desk, like dramatically. And then he had a couple
Hollywood moment.
Yeah. and he had a couple books in his hand, and he like slams them on the desk, and then he like just keeps like, you know, talking to me aggressively, and then he starts like pointing in my face. Now,
Scabs floating in the air. Scab debris floating.
so I don't know that he's ever worked with a Latina before, because I am not, like, I'm nice, but only,
Don't
like,
push
only
us.
to
Well, I'm not Latino. I'm Italian, but it's very similar. Like I can flip like that, and I can be so fucking mean.
So
So-
I get up at this point because I'm
Yeah.
pissed, and I don't even care about my job at that point. So, and I start like screaming at him and like, you know, basically like telling him to back off and let me pass. And so the coworkers hear us both screaming, and so I hear the chair desks moving, and you know, like the chairs moving. So I know people
Essentially,
are
they're
coming.
getting popcorn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after he hears people coming, then he leaves. I thought that I had enough between the bad review, the, you know, the clothing thing, the aggressive behavior. Like I had enough to go to HR, the new HR, right?
I would say, yeah.
So I went to the new HR, and I highlighted in the manual where it says we have no dress code. I had witnesses come and talk about the violent confrontation, all that stuff. And the good news is he was removed as my boss.
Oh, good.
But he still held his title. He was just, you know, a different section, and he kind of didn't manage anyone for a while, but he still had the title manager.
Yeah.
Eventually
So
he was
demoted,
promoted.
but not demoted.
No, he
Yeah.
just was promoted.
He was eventually promoted after a little bit of time, and two designers were hired to work for his team. There was some sort of thing that happened. I don't know, because I wasn't part of this, but I witnessed the two ladies run out of the meeting like sobbing.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that, the women were let go. And then he was told that like a communication came out, and he was told that he was only allowed to manage men from now on, but he kept his position.
I mean, okay, my thought on that is he should have been removed, but if for whatever reason they couldn't remove him, like if there wasn't enough of a smoking gun,
Or if he
That's
didn't,
not-
maybe he had like some fucking weird clause in his contract.
who knows? But like, I
Mhm.
think that was the right thing to do. Like he could only, obviously he does not get along with women. There's something, maybe he's an incel. Maybe he's never been kissed because he has too many scabs on his mouth.
No, he had a wife and twins.
Artificial insemination.
Or the one time they had sex,
Green
they
card?
had twins.
Yeah, green card situation. I don't know.
I mean, that's possibility.
No, okay, but clearly he
Has
He
issues.
had
Yeah.
issues
No,
with
but
women.
if he's okay, now you say, okay, now now I'm mentally concerned, right? Like you're telling me the man is married. If he's treating people at work like this, if he's treating women at work like this, what the fuck is he doing to his wife at home?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. But at the same time, like maybe it's because I'm too much of a true crime nerd. Like, I feel like these people who are so insane like that, they wear different masks. So he probably wore a very different mask at home than he did.
But then let's say you're hungry or tired, your mask is gonna slip.
If you're that fucking weird, it doesn't.
You and your fucking podcasts.
Well, I will say when his wife came in, she like owned him. Like she like snapped her fingers, and he would like
See? I
practically
knew
pee
it.
his pants.
Oh,
Yeah.
So he was probably taking out that,
his lack of control.
yes,
at
by
work.
asserting control on the women
Not
at
that we're
work.
psychologists. We're just making assumptions.
I just got my PhD LCSW within the last 5
XYZ.
minutes, whatever that would. Yeah, I'm licensed. No, I'm not. But you can call me Doc. No, I'm absolutely not. But you can call me Dr. Panella if you're nasty.
So
Did I just sexually harass everyone on the podcast right now? No,
Yeah.
it's just a play on Janet Jackson's song.
No.
Yeah, Reina, break the tie. Questionable.
Questionable.
Come on.
It could go either way.
It
It's in the
was
delivery.
perfect timing though.
Oh, For sure.
It landed. I'll give you that much. Okay.
It made me
I
smile.
won't edit you out. That's fine.
Okay. So he's only managing men.
Yeah. And this is all at the same job, by the way.
No, we're on board. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I feel
what
like this
happens
may
next?
have to be a two-parter at this point because
Mhm.
I'm just
Yeah.
like, the fuck
Because
is
you have
happening in
so
this
much.
place?
Like, I feel like we're only on page 4 of your documents where we stopped reading.
10 pages of crap.
Okay, go ahead. What
You know
happens
what?
next?
You know what? If it becomes a two-part series, like part
We're
1 and
open
part
to
2,
it.
I'm totally there for it because this is ridiculous.
All at the same job. This guy's only managing dicks, people with dicks.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens next for you? How much longer do you stay at this job? Does Evil E come back?
Evil E does not come back.
Okay.
But I do stay at the job for like two more years.
And what? And did anything notable happen then?
Yeah, lots. So
Oh shit!
Yeah. So I got
Just
a new
when I
manager.
think it can't get any worse.
Yeah. So it gets way worse. So I got a new manager and he was like a crazy talented designer.
Hey.
He was so good at like kind of presenting and like getting feedback and like, you know, getting people to like kind of convey what they want from a design, which is something that I struggled with at that time. Like getting people to explain what they want when it comes to art is often very difficult.
It's hard to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I learned a lot from him and I really liked it, but I was used to having autonomy over my work. And when he got hired, like he would take all the awesome jobs and then I was stuck with like all the crappy, like just cutting up assets or like giving specs to the developers or whatever, like kind of boring stuff. So I kind of was starting to lose interest because I felt like I lost like all the cool stuff. Oh yeah. So at this point, working there had become like so stressful that for myself and other employees as well in other parts of the company, I'd often like go to the bathroom and cry, like, and just like, and I'd hear other ladies crying in the bathroom, like at the same time.
Did you guys ever talk about that? Like, hey, why are you
Did you
crying?
ever like solidarity together?
Yeah. But also they kept you so busy that you didn't really have a ton of time. Like we would like have long lunches or we'd like kind of do vent sessions and stuff. But then it kind of became more like you never got a break from work because you're talking about work when you're not at work.
What were the other ladies crying about? Was it similar stuff like being overworked or what was it that you guys were coming up with the reasons?
Yeah, I think the main problem of the company at that point was it had exploded and got so huge, like in such a short period of time. When I first got hired, I had like 6 people interview me and, you know, all 6 of them had to say yes in order for me to get hired. And I think it created a close-knit group of people who were a good cultural fit and were also like willing to teach each other and also like, you know, kind of good-natured people overall. But when the job exploded, they just started hiring people, sometimes not even with meeting them in person, just like reading their resume and then hiring them. And also another problem was that there were way too many top managers. It was so top heavy. Like I had about 13 managers, stakeholders. Yeah. And
Why?
I had to like because it was a shared resource. So I had basically a boss or a stakeholder in every part of the company. And so in order to get a design approved, I had to get 12, 13 people to agree on one piece of art.
That's like herding cats.
Yeah, it's like impossible. And so like other ladies that were crying and stuff, it was the same thing. Like they had multiple managers and not enough people to do the actual work. So it actually wasn't uncommon to like walk through the aisle and see people like crying under their desks. And I actually took a picture of one of my friends just to remember how awful it was. And I always have the picture in my phone because I always told myself if a job ever gets this bad again, I'm just going to quit. And I
feel like
actually
you need to quit before it gets that bad.
Yeah.
I feel like you should have quit a long time ago, but I also get, like, in retrospect, hindsight's 2020, right? You now looking back, you're like, I should have been out when Scabs was fucking
Flaked on
freaking out
you.
at you. Yeah. So,
But that was the point where I started winning awards for my work. And so
but I get it. So I get it.
Mhm.
It's like,
Mhm.
I mean, I so get it. And I think it's harder for women to make that decision too, for some reason, because like the sense of, I'm assuming you were supporting yourself at this point. Like I've always supported myself as an adult. Like I never had my parents' help or anything. So the sense of kind of like just leaving I think it's very scary for women.
Yeah. And I just moved into my new apartment. And
Right. Like,
yeah, I don't.
yeah. Okay. So Reina, not about me. Okay. So you should have been out with Scabs, but you were getting awards. Everything was really going well for you up until, are we getting to the point where it's up until?
Yes.
Because I feel like a lot more shit's about to happen.
Trigger warning, completed suicide coming up.
So someone committed suicide at work.
At the location.
Yes.
But like how? Not like details, but like how at the location?
Yeah.
Was it during regular work hours?
Yeah, it was during work hours. And they were alone at that point. Yeah, so that was like a huge wake-up call for me because I had just talked to the guy like a week prior. So that was really, really crazy
like
for me.
Jump
I'm like,
out the window?
no. So he kind of like, I don't know like exactly how to define his role, but he worked in the office, bless you. He worked in the office, helping to kind of curate the materials. And then he would load the trucks or like kind of do inventory of the trucks. And so when he committed suicide, it was in the truck. And I don't know how he did it, but it was some in the truck. So they found him in the truck like later that day. So it was really awful. And so the company reacted very quickly. And what they decided that the office needed a makeover to solve the mass depression among the staff.
Obviously.
Mm-hmm. So part of this renovation involved putting plants in the office. Okay. Unfortunately,
a plant in response to suicide. Okay.
And adding colorful chairs. Okay.
Color psychology is.
I'm sure there was valid reasons behind it, but what did it do to you, Reina?
Well, it didn't help me because unfortunately I was ridiculously allergic to the plants. And so I asked supply guy, there is a return, supply guy return.
Oh God.
So I asked supply guy, since he was the office manager, I asked him to remove them because I was like really allergic. And so he would purposely put clippings of the plant all over the office to mess with me. And like, for example, he put clippings of the office like in the bathroom so that I couldn't use the bathroom.
So what happened
like
to you when you found the clippings? Like, was it like immediate sneezing, coughing, swelling of the eyes? Like what did it look like for you?
Yeah. So it's like, if I saw the plant and I like immediately got out of the room, it was fine. But if I was in the room for like more than a minute, then my throat started closing up. I couldn't breathe.
So it was serious. Yeah. It was like, yeah. Okay.
What plant is this? Like what?
Oh, I don't remember. It's some sort of fern. I don't remember.
Like, why are we not checking with our staff that we aren't allergic to crap like that? As your local health and safety person, why are we not checking?
Because America doesn't have health and safety people.
Okay. So I, again, tried HR. And I told them that the plants were, making me allergic, like anaphylaxis level, like serious level.
Yeah.
And their response is that they can't get rid of the plants just to accommodate one person. So what they agreed was a compromise of moving the plants to a different floor of the building.
Okay.
So they gathered up all the plants and put them on a different floor. Well, the problem is some people who didn't know that I was allergic or whatever, they thought it was pretty plant and they would bring it back down to our floor, or in meeting rooms or whatever. So I just always had to be super vigilant. And so one day I had a meeting and I didn't see that there was a plant. I called it plant of death. I didn't see the plant of death in the corner.
Here's another card for us. Plant of death.
Like evil plant with like devil horns. And so, yeah, I just didn't see it. And as I was presenting my design, I started like inexplicably like coughing and wheezing. And then my boss, like, he noticed the plant and he's like, oh no, Reina, the plant. And so they hurried up and they moved the plant out of the room, but it was too late. Like the damage had already been done. So like, I literally couldn't breathe to the point where I couldn't use my legs. I couldn't walk. So I'm crawling, army crawling, trying to get to my desk so I can get my like steroid inhaler. And I didn't make it to my desk. I just passed out. And like all the people that were in the meeting are just like following me, being like, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? But of course I can't talk. I don't have any breath. And so like I pass out. And when I came to, I saw my boss calling 911 in the ambulance.
Shit.
And I was like, don't call the ambulance. I can't afford it. Don't call the ambulance. I can't. And I just passed out in the middle of like begging him.
But America is so gross. The fact that you don't want the ambulance to come because you can't afford it. I hate you, America.
When I came to, after asking them not to call the ambulance, I was just in the ambulance hooked up to all sorts of breathing things and, you know, whatever. And so I ended up getting a bill for like $600 for the ambulance ride. And then I had to pay for the actual hospital stay because I had to stay overnight.
Did you have insurance with this company?
I did. Yeah. This was
Okay,
like,
good.
yeah, after insurance, that was like how much I owed. Yeah. So I told HR that they should reimburse me, right? Because I repeatedly asked them to move the plan and they didn't. And they refused. They said that they were not going to reimburse me. So
why?
They said because it was pre-existing conditions, that I had allergies before this incident.
Yeah,
So,
but okay. They're so
Yeah.
stupid. I hate them.
Yeah.
Okay. So then what happens?
Shortly after that, my good boss, the one that was teaching me all this stuff, he got promoted. Oh, so after my boss got promoted, I lobbied to take his place because at that point I felt like I could start moving up and be like a senior or a lead or something. And I didn't want to, like, with all the stuff going on, I did want to quit, but I felt like I was like letting them win if I quit, you know?
I'm following.
And so I didn't want to quit unless I had something bigger and better, pretty much.
Okay.
I think that's a smart move.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
After I got the promotion, I happened to land my new job. But I noticed with other people who left the company that there was some funny business going on. Like I suspected that they would try something weird with me when I tried to quit. Cause like a friend of mine resigned at the company, and instead of saying that she resigned, they said that she was fired.
That's exactly what happened to me.
Yeah, I heard that in your podcast. That's why I put that in there. I was like, oh, that happened to me. And they said because she was fired and she didn't quit, that they weren't entitled to giving her the rest of her holiday pay. Yeah, so I didn't really understand. And so I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to cover my bases. And so, okay. So what I did was I had my one-on-one where I was going to give my boss my resignation. And so in order to like prevent like anything, like any funny business. So during the one-on-one, I gave him my letter of resignation. While I was talking to him about my resignation, after he read the letter, he started saying, oh, you know what? I think I have to review your recent performance to decide if in fact I'll allow a resignation or if I'm going to fire you instead. And so while he was saying that, I heard like the glorious ding of the email that I had pre-timed to go off while I was giving my resignation with him in the office that announced to the rest of the company that I was resigning.
Oh shit. Mic drop.
I'm loving this
So-
for you.
Yeah. So he was talking to me and he heard the ding and he just kind of glanced over and saw, you know, Reina's resignation. And so then he looks back over at me and he goes, well, you thought of everything, didn't you? I guess you can leave.
Mic drop. Okay.
And I finished out the rest of my time there with no problem. And I did get all of my holiday pay. Paid
Okay,
out.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, that's because you were resigning. You didn't like say, like, there's a difference between resigning and quitting. Quitting means
Oh, okay.
like you're leaving right then and there. Fuck the
Ah.
company. You're dropping everything and you're walking out. Resigning is basically saying, like, here's my 2 weeks notice. Let me finish up, or I'll finish up whatever I need to finish up. So it's more like you're working with the company. Whereas quitting is like, fuck you, I'm out of here. And I'm
I
going to
see.
leave everything messy and open for anyone else to have at, with like no help for finding a replacement if that was something they might ask you to do. So it sounds like you resigned, whereas your friend quit.
Well, she had told me that she resigned, but I don't know.
Who
for
knows?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what happened?
So I was done with that job. I'm very happy to be done with it. And unfortunately, after quitting, I heard through my friends that were still there that 2 more people committed suicide on work premises.
Oh,
As a response, they subjected all the employees to biweekly psych assessments. So that like they could assess like, oh, this person was psychologically unstable. So we're not liable, right?
So it wasn't
and-
actually to actually keep tabs and understand what's stressing the employees. It was a loophole for them to say, well, they were already unstable.
pretty much,
That
yeah.
is so fucked up. Like, Nicola, don't you have something to say about that from the health and safety work that you do?
hold on. Let me just get my so much to say. So my first question here is, how legitimate is it to give people psychological assessments? Because if you're creating like a safe and healthy work environment, especially for mentally healthy work, you're not going in and, you know, exposing people to additional stress for them to be doing psych assessments every week. Like that's like, what
That's
is
my
wrong
point.
with
Like,
the
shouldn't
system?
they have
Like, what's wrong with
got-
the system that this is what you're checking versus check how the work is created and developed and formed and what are the managers doing? And no, there's just I could talk
That's
about
my
this for
point. Like,
years.
shouldn't they have taken the time out to be like, let's stop and see what the bigger issue is? Are we overworking our employees? Like, what's going on? Rather than just saying, oh, well, we're giving them mental checks every 2 weeks or whatever it was. That also, like, were you able to refuse the mental check? Like, I have a therapist.
Yeah,
I don't
no,
need to have
I don't know.
I don't have a work, you know, someone who works for the company telling me if I'm sane or not. Like, fuck you. You probably have no doctorate of anything. They probably just, because you said they were hiring people just from their resumes. It's like I could be like, Dr. Pinella,
Yeah, right.
license, everything. And they'd be like, you're hired. You're doing the mental health checks every 2 weeks. Like, I feel like that would have been totally something that could have happened. Ay, okay.
Yeah.
Where
So,
do we land
yeah.
here?
So yeah, that was it. And then so many people quit that it became like a real skeleton crew and the company nearly folded. So the company is still open now.
Alive there,
But
yeah.
but it's barely, like, it was making like, 2 billion, whatever. And now it's like just barely limping along. So
Do you know what their annual revenue is?
now? No, I don't.
But at one point it was 2 billion a year
Yeah.
with a
Mhm.
B, not
Yeah.
an M, with a B. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I know they had sold off parts of the company and all that stuff. So.
Yeah, never a good sign.
Mhm.
Now, what's really cool as we come to the end of this podcast is we are going to head into part 2, and it is going to be equally as saucy as this first part that we've completed. And we're really looking forward to your feedback on part 1 as well, because these stories that Reina is sharing with us just keep getting more and more
crazier
crazy.
and like weirder. And also you'll be introduced to a new cast of characters. So we encourage you from part 1 going into part 2 to check out our deck of cards of characters on IG, and like, subscribe, and tell all your friends and family.
Thank you for joining us today. If you would like to share your story, we would love to hear from you.
Also, leaving a review helps us create more content because it shows us there's an interest in this topic.
For those of our listeners who do better with reading, we have closed caption available on YouTube.
See you next week, same time and same place.